everybody, welcome back to the Amazon European Masters. Third day of groups here, and there's tons of amazing action to be had. Viper and Jamada taking you through the first half of the day. Jamada, we watched some amazing League of Legends yesterday, and today looks set to be exactly the same.
Yeah, honestly, especially the back half of today is looking like complete banger after banger, but we'll get to that, of course. We're here taking you through the first three, but like you said, yesterday was an insane set of games. I mean, start to finish, Game 1 taking on Matchco. The game went about how you would probably expect it, right? LFL seed coming in, dominating the match. Matchco, again, to me, you know, a much less wacky draft than they had on day one. Unfortunately, couldn't quite bring the same level of magic, coming in with a slightly more standard draft. Of course, the Galio is not something that we see so frequently, but still, a lot of the, you know, themes still make a lot of sense. You have a top side draft where you can maybe look to shut down the Aatrox, or you can obviously use the global of Galio, Wukong, just move down to the bottom side. You have Zeri Yuumi, get the Zeri gaming going. Unfortunately, however, Game World had their number from the start.
And I mean, Heretics as well, when we're talking about teams that have been looking on form. Definitely one of the standouts so far. They just brushed Valiance aside.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, like we kind of expect from Team Heretics, there's a lot of, you know, high expectations around Heretics, despite the general, you know, kind of narrative that, yes, LFL, strongest region by far, they are looking to kind of just dominate everybody. Heretics have something to say about this, to be honest with you. Honestly, I could see them going the distance, but we need to see the same level of consistency when they come up against some of these stronger opponents. Still yet to play BDSA, of course. Away from that, however, this game was very, very enjoyable to watch, unless your name was TakeSet, because Kerberos just had this man in Death Realm after Death Realm. And yeah, I mean, the Mordekaiser angle here for Dusty works out well. It's not a champion you see so frequently, but 4 tanks, not really doing too much burst damage. That is perfect for Kerberos, and this was such a fun game. A game that honestly a Northeast could have taken, but it was one or two many really greedy steps forward, which allowed moments like this for Temp to just slip forward with the Ahri, get picks going. And unfortunately, the team fighting prowess and cohesion from X7 was too much for a Northeast to do.
I mean, Temp and Attila both on form in this one, and yeah, it could have gone either way, but ultimately X7 definitely the stronger of the two sides going forward in this group. But of course, this was the opening of Group B, the last one to be started up, and we've already got some teams looking on form. Not in Group B, but a team that definitely looks on form. BDS Academy taking down SK Gaming Prime in a pretty one-sided affair.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the issues from SK Prime kind of bled into the second day. We did see a lot more willingness to be proactive, but unfortunately those moments were met with just straight up hands checks from BDSA. The mechanical, you know, execution unfortunately just wasn't there from SK Prime yesterday. Unfortunately, I feel like they had a lot of strong tools, a lot of go buttons. I heavily praise, you know, drafts like that where there's just multiple instances and ways to go in. Unfortunately, they weren't able to use those tools to much success. But this is a very interesting game, wasn't it? LDLC taking on a Go Rogue. Semi-finals rematch from last split. LDLC repeat the same end result. They pick up the win. But, you know, you have to say, Agoro came in, you know, swinging. Look at the draft. Karthus, Sion mid lane. Yasuo, Alistar bot lane. Unfortunately, just not enough ranged engage options to actually give Lucka the backline access that he really needed. So unfortunately, LDLC kind of just wiped the floor of it. They recognized that, and they had too much wave clear and just staved off all of the early pressure that they had, unfortunately, had to deal with.
Well, we've looked back. Now let's look forward towards the match, the standings that we've got going into today, just to kind of bridge those two. As you can see, there's been no mixed results. You either win or you lose, but that is going to change today as some of these undefeated and only defeated teams will be meeting.
Yeah, definitely. As Will says, it's you've won or you've lost so far, and that's going to be a pretty big point of contention for some of the matches that end up being played today. Group C and D in particular, right? Those 2-0 teams against those 0-2 teams. Obviously, both of them having to play their respective scoreline brothers in arms, shall we say, in their groups. So there will finally be some separation there. And definitely, you know, if you're particularly, you know, SK Prime, Matchco, Schalke, Valiant, you have to win. Otherwise, going into next week's round, second round robin at 0-3 is just going to feel horrible and a massive mountain to climb back from.
It looks near impossible, but let's have a look at the schedule and see exactly what action we've got today. Jamada obviously talking a lot about the second half of the day, but we're kicking off with Macko Esports up against FC Schalke Neufair Esports, Zero Tenacity, Vitality B, Adolfosis, Famagusta up against Ago Road, Game Ward, Dusty, LDLC up against X7 Esports, and rounding out with Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition up against Giants. And as you said, Jamada, there's some spicy matches in the second half of the day, but massively crucial ones in the opens.
Yeah, the opener's still all very much important, right? Matchco, Schalke, both teams still looking for their first win. Zero Tenacity, Vitality B obviously have only played one game respectively, but still need to pick up a win somewhere to get some kind of momentum going for themselves. So yeah, really looking forward to a lot of the games to kick off our day, but definitely the second half as well, looking pretty banger. I have to say, it's just like first seed against each other effectively, it feels like. So it's going to be a very fun day.
Well, looking towards our first match of the day, we got Matchco up against Schalke, and two teams that haven't had good starts to the play-in stage right now. Both are 0-2 looking to pick up that win. And as you mentioned, a loss here is pretty devastating for either of these sides.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Schalke have their own issues going on right now, being 0-2. They're going to have to do what they can to dig deep and overcome those. For Matchco, though, obviously, this is a pretty good opportunity to try and, find that first win when there is a lot of, chaos going on in the camp, shall we say. And I think for Matchco, it's definitely much needed. They came in, of course, on that day one with that very, very, there's loads of words I could use for that Heimerdinger Shaco draft, but they came in, they tried to surprise Dusty. It didn't work. Yesterday, they kind of just got checked playing a slightly more standard draft. I'm curious to see what they will look to play into Schalke today, considering they are one of the sort of mad scientist teams that we have, whether or not they want to play more standard just because they feel like they can kind of just beat Schalke as they are right now playing that standard League of Legends, or whether or not they want to try and catch them off guard, with something with a little more volatility, we'll have to see. But definitely so important that one of these teams picks up a win. Fortunately, there is no such thing as draws in League of Legends, so one of these teams will be walking away 0-3. One of them will be walking away with at least one win going into week 2.
I mean, you say there's no such thing as draws in League of Legends, but I remember EU LCS back in the day where someone thought best of twos were a good idea. They weren't. Spoiler alert. But these two teams, as you mentioned, winning here does mean that you're in with a shout of qualification. If things go your way a little bit, you can still qualify from 0-3, but let's not kid ourselves. Very unlikely to happen. It doesn't happen, basically, unless things are completely reversed in the other round robin. And teams just generally don't necessarily come back after going 0-3 and show that they can beat all the teams in their group once again, especially when this group is pretty stacked. It's going to be difficult for either of these sides. But I hope for a little bit of innovation in the draft is the word I would use to describe it, because if you're playing that standard, we saw it yesterday, right? You go in with the standard mentality, standard League of Legends, Galio aside a little bit. It didn't work. And going back to the drawing board and saying, do we want to just play that standard style of League of Legends again? Or do we want to stay with something that's a little bit more crazy, a little bit more what we're used to? And hey, maybe we'll catch Schalke Neufeld off guard, because they are very vulnerable at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, for both sides looking for some kind of stability, some kind of middle ground, right? Obviously, with the substitutions going on with Schalke and Neufeld, you kind of have to wonder, what kind of League of Legends are we capable of playing right now? How back to the basics can we even go to try and bring some kind of semblance of a team together on the Rift right now? Obviously, for Matchco, no issues there. It's just more about how they're actually going to look to approach the game. And again, like you say, I think for them, a team that's, kind of willing to be crazy. How crazy do you want to make this game? Do you want to make it a bloodbath? Do you want to, again, kind of approach the game with the same kind of style that you had yesterday? Or is it more or less just try and take it slow? But I think if you try and take it slow into a team like Schalke 04, regardless of what's going on right now with them, you're just giving them the opportunity to still play the game out with potentially a very standard draft and angle to come in and take them down.
Sometimes maybe we just flip it. Maybe that's the decision that you make in this match. And we're going to get to pick some badge. Matchco on the blue, Schalke Neufeld on the red. Draven, first one taken off the table. Of course, we don't have to mention Jaeger in the jungle, not his traditional role, but of course changes made just for the tournament mean that is where he is performing at the moment. Expect to see any jungle bans going that way, or is it just going to be bot lane as we're seeing here?
Looks like bot laners. I mean, the bot side of the map is the strong, stable side right now for Schalke. So I think that Matchco have come in with the context of that and just saying, all right, we're just going to remove all of it. It seems like Draven, Felios could maybe go towards the Sivir, I suppose, is the next best thing from TakeSet's champion pool. Or you can also kind of move away. It really fully depends on them. They've only really seen maybe a strong-ish performance from Jaeger on the Vi, but there you go. They just take away the Sivir. I think it makes the most sense here. And that's for Schalke 04. Again, options across the board, take away some of the weirder picks. They've already removed away the Rengar just to make sure they don't get Ivan Rengar on. And of course, Asad's flank taken off the board. So I think, there's going to be a lot of power picks up and available just from the get-go. There's no thinking required there. We'll see how overloaded this draft ends up being, as Senna is the final banner taken off the board.
do go for your marks, but immediately stuff like the Zeri is available. So even though you've banned away 3, Sen are also taken off the table, you say, look, we're going to grab something. It's actually going to be the Nami priority, which still leaves open a ton of marksmen that can work well with this pick.
This is a really interesting angle though, because normally if you feel like you're gonna go Nami Lucian, you open with Lucian, because then you also have the flexibility of saying, all right, maybe we could even, you know, flex this towards the middle of the top side of the map. Opening out with Nami does technically mean Schalke could look to take it away. There are still pairings you can go with Lucian that are Nami at the end of the day, but Schalke will fit not too frustrated about that. They're just going to open out and respond with this Lulu, and we could just see the Zeri follow in kind, right? Just to get that immediate duo combination, but also I think securing a jungler early on or a top laner early on for either Elite Joint or Jaeger is also a very strong thing to look towards, given the conditions right now. So I like the Sejuani rotation, and they can always still go towards that Zeri, in mind knowing that Matchco should almost always be locking in the Lucian in this rotation.
Matchco just teasing us with that Ivan pickup, but as you mentioned, Sejuani, not traditionally a flex pick at the moment, much more likely to be seen in top lane than in jungle, but with Jaeger being a traditional top laner, it could be a champion that he is comfortable on. There's the Lucian, as you mentioned, and it will be a Karthus locked in alongside, so bot lane jungle, very standard stuff seen from the PG Nats representatives. Whether it'll be matched by Schalke, and it's going to be the Kog'Maw Lulu, El Clasico.
All right, that's a big throwback, and definitely what this does mean is that Schalke guaranteed will have a very strong late game win conditions play through in that Kog'Maw, right? But Nami Lucian, very, very powerful in the early game. That level 3 onwards is really start to see that spike. I'm expecting now Matchco are probably going to look to ban away some divers, I would expect. Something that can pair well or provide a lot of peel with the Sejuani, and of course, you know, the Kog'Maw Lulu. So Wukong comes to mind, Xin Zhao also comes to mind as 2 picks that would really pair up well to provide strong front lines and team fighting tools that can be played around. That's the first one will be taken off the board. There's the Wukong and the Jarvan on the opposite side. That Karthus is actually a flex pick for Matchco, so they don't want to have the potential of Karthus mid lane. Jarvan comes in to lock down the immobile Lulu Kog'Maw, so you can understand why Schalke are going towards that angle. After that, though, they can definitely look to remove away another one of Asidy's picks if they feel like. I'm not really sure what they would want to go towards them. Maybe something like the Ornn is an option for them if they really want to take away more engaged tools that can be very disruptive for these kind of team fights. Go towards the Renekton just to make sure that if this Sejuani is going in the top side, 1-to-1, that matchup can't get bullied out so hard.
And yeah, you mentioned it there, looking at the Matchco roster saying, hey, that's bot jungle. We'll see. Hopefully it's bot jungle, but those champions can go in here. I pray most of all that Nami is actually the support. But we're just waiting on that final ban to come through from Matchco. It's going to be the Vice, who's taking a little bit of comfort, expecting that Sejuani to be up in the top side. Are they going to hold the mid laner, or are they going to lock in? We'll have to wait and see.
All right, I mean, it looks like it's going to be Viego. Of course, all of those sort of AD junglers that can reset well off the Sejuani, if you look to at least make a gank happen towards the top side, there's a lot of strong CC and skirmishing potential. You almost kind of guarantee yourself a winning 2v2 on the top side. Obviously, Viego as well, a very, very strong team fighter. And are we going to get some kind of special from Asidy? Hovering the Olaf, of course, naturally you'd imagine it's good into that Sejuani post 6, but also even before that, just so much sustained damage that Sejuani can't really burst through Ignite or not. That's going to be the option there for Matchco. So a little bit of spiciness being brought here through that one. Of course, the Karthus pick also there for that. Now it's about what exactly is going to happen for the mid lane here for HawHaw. You expect that the Karthus is probably still going in the jungle, but you know, with a team like Matchco, you never know. They don't really show their hands until that B5, and heck, it just continues to get spicier, doesn't it?
Yeah, that
Nocturne
doesn't show
Karthus,
the hands.
It kind of does though. This should be Nocturne mid, Karthus jungle. You can technically, they are interchangeable, so if they feel like one matchup is worse than the other, they can definitely swap those around. But this should be the Nocturne in the mid lane. Somebody get Vedius on the line, I'm sure. He's very interested to see how this one will play out. But it's more about, you know, complete darkness being pulled with the Paranoia, and then a Requiem being brought down on top of it, and it's just complete mayhem and chaos. Decay is going to take the Akali into it. Honestly, I kind of understand the pick here. Yes, it might not play into that whole team fight fantasy of setting up TakeSet, but when you look over to the Matchco side, there's not really too much peel, and there's a lot of basically free backline access for him to have. He just has to find the angle. So I quite like the fact that they've kind of pivoted towards that in the final part. It's a lot of disruption in the backline, whilst the rest of the team can play towards allowing TakeSet to actually have space to make these team fights work.
Well, that's what I'm looking at this Matchco lineup. You see the Nami ultimate, you think, cool, that's exactly one piece of disengage. And
beyond that, there's not really anything. So.
Yeah, there's nothing else going for it. So you choose that pickup and say, look, we've got champions that work well in team fights, but the Akali is going to have free range, you've got to imagine, because there's going to be no one to actually stop her doing her thing. And if the Akali pickup doesn't work, if it gets shut down in lane, Nocturne obviously has a pretty nice time being able to fear and catch Akali out guard even when she's in that smoke. We've still got a stronger team fight realistically, because Matchco's tools seem a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, definitely so. You know, I think what you can say at the very least is that Cboi should have pretty consistent priority lanes to work off of in terms of how he decides the path. So curious to see how they'll make that one work as we are into game number 1 of the day.
Matchco on the blue side, Schalke no fear on the red, and Jamada, for yourself and everyone else listening at home, don't forget to claim your August/September League of Legends monthly capsule for all of the Prime shoppers out there, for your chance to get RP, Mythic Essence, skins, and more. So make sure to be checking in, making sure you haven't got one lying around. I always miss mine, so it's always worth just checking in to make sure you've actually claimed yours for this month. But we are on to the Rift, and I'm fascinated to see how these two teams are going to go up against each other. Of course, both yet to pick up a win in the group stages. Matchco, happy to see them go for something a little bit strange in terms of how the composition is built. Why don't you again just like quickly talk us through, what does this comp want to do?
I mean, to me, it looks like it's kind of just lane dominance across the board, right? 1-to-1, HawHaw and Decay in that lane. HawHaw is going to be able to always kind of pin Decay down, have first move towards wherever Cboi wants to. Jaeger on this Viego is going to have a much slower time at clearing. So honestly, with this Karthus pick, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Matchco maybe get a little bit aggressive on an invade, perhaps. They can have priority down here on the bottom side, depending on how Rharesh and FLICKR want to sort of manage this lane as well. They could look for a wave 3 crash at around sort of like 3 minutes or so, and then look to pair up with Cboi as a trio and move into the bottom side jungle. And that's a very valid option for Matchco to try and look towards, as Jaeger looks like he's going to go for a very standard red interruptors, and then he will be on his bottom side. It's about how quickly Cboi will be able to path his way down there. But actually, curiously, it looks like Rharesh and FLICKR took a pretty poor trade, so
yeah,
actually not going to have so much priority early on.
Which is interesting considering the Kog'Maw Lulu, we always expect them to be this late game powerhouse. Lucian, Nami expect to be doing a lot of very good aggression early, but it's Schalke who seem to have the priority down in the bot lane. Whether this will be good or bad for them in terms of ganks, as both junglers are on that bottom side, we'll have to wait and see, but starting off pretty strong.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that does get underestimated quite frequently is like Kog'Maw Lulu W start level 1. There's so much attack speed and range. I mean, kind of hard to trade into, and I guess Rharesh and FLICKR must have just been caught off guard. And now, with that in mind, they're going to have to sit on their hands for a little bit. Once they get level 3, that's when they can actually have the opportunity to trade a little more aggressively. But if they let the trades go on too long, of course, Kog'Maw and Lulu can start to out DPS even very early on into the lane.
And then on the top side, we've got Olaf, Sejuani, two ex-junglers meeting in lane phase. Not player-wise, but just by champion. And Olaf, of course, likes to play very aggressively. Level 6 will be able to run through all of the CC that Sejuani provides. How's the top lane matchup going to look for you? Is this all just about Olaf and Elite Joint trying to just survive through it?
I mean, I think it's more to me about Asadi trying to find whatever advantage he can in the 1v1. Once that level 6 comes in and you can Ragnarok through the permafrost stuns, that's really when you're going to see a lot of pressure layered in to Elite Joint on the top side. Or if this wave, you know, bounces back to Asadi and all of a sudden it's a very long way away from your tower and feel the Sejuani, then yeah, there's a little bit of threat of an all-in. All it really takes is an Undertone or Ghost to be popped. You can see here, Asadi kind of playing as if he's reset. If Elite Joint steps too far forward, there's always a threat of a chase down, but for now, just an Untote to the face, and it looks like we will just have a little bit of neutrality.
Slow start to this one, but no complaints from me. Both teams have decent scaling options. Schalke maybe slightly more, but we're not going to get into the who wins late game conversations at 4 minutes in, because I don't think anyone needs to hear that. Cboi just been full clearing out. Viego keeping track. Jaeger pretty much on parity, which is fairly good for the champion who, when you're up against the Karthus, it could always feel a little bit bad to be trailing behind him in terms of clear speed, but it looks like Jaeger's doing a pretty good job.
Jaeger doing a good job so far, but what you have to remember is Cboi's full cleared all of his jungle. Jaeger skipped out on the Krugs on the first outing, and now he will be able to potentially actually, with Cboi seeing this information up in the top side, get a couple of jungle camps of his own from the bottom side of the map. It just kind of depends on the bottom side lane state, which right now seems to be controlled by TakeSet and Lilipp. So I think his jungle camps are likely going to be safe, but Jaeger just doing a really good job of guarding his top laner, ensuring he doesn't get ganked, and giving him a safe back time. But there you go, there's Cboi in the jungle.
He might be spotted out here though, as Jaeger will see those Raptors go down. HawHaw teleporting back into mid lane to give him a little bit of support, but Viego looking for the stun will be able to find it and will stop the blast from going off, but now goes over the wall alongside, and the flash from Decay to chase forward. It's all going down as Cboi runs away. Members coming through. HawHaw is there. First one goes the way of Jaeger, but he'll be cut down by the Nightmare. HawHaw looking for a second now as Decay tries to escape. Here's Lilipp with the speed up, with the shield, but we're not done yet as the top laners, Ace, Azadi, and Elite Joint just putting some damage into one another. Sejuani might be favored, but the undertow, he's got the damage, he's got the axes, he's just so low. One more, the shield. Lilipp with the kill.
Lilipp with the glitter lance off of the back of the E has allowed himself to win that fight up in the top side. Azadi had the damage, but he just had the undertow in a slightly incorrect position. He couldn't run far enough to pick it back up in time to make a chase down happen before Lilipp could get involved. That means that Elite Joint will assist Lilipp in picking up that kill. That's how it works. Top laners don't do anything in the game ever. Smile. But a really nice turn of events there for Schalke, picking up 2 kills on the back of this invade. See, really nice chase down here from Schalke onto Cboi, who was just looking for jungle camps, right? I think the correct call for an invade, but just maybe not on this side of the map. Perhaps as Jaeger does go down, the target focus is there, the passive as well, helping from Cboi to take that one down. Then you can see on the top side of the fight how much damage is actually available to Elite Joint. That's quite a bit, but Azadi holds his W for a very long time. This is where the DPS can get a little bit scary from the Olaf as he gets very low. Again, the issue is the undertow went through Elite Joint, and Azadi couldn't really position in a way to actually get back to it in time to continue throwing it down very, very quickly. With that in mind, Elite Joint is able to help them get that kill. But out of the replay, we do see Matchco pick up this dragon, so have that first one to their name. That's a pretty hefty trade, as you'd expect from an RB Lucian out of the box.
Diving back forward onto the minion wave, and will we try to get something going? Cboi shows his face to make sure that Akali doesn't feel too secure going in. But as you mentioned, that dragon going down, Hextech will be our second, so your book selling days might not be done just yet, as Cloud is always an option for the Soul Point. It's good to see a little bit of action starting up in this game, though. Bot lane, 3 out of 4 members of bot lane not particularly involved. Of course, Lilipp with that solo kill. Another day's work for the Lulu. I'm just kidding, of course. Sejuani heavily invested, but couldn't find that killing below. As things have petered out just a little bit, we've got the Rift Herald up in 20 seconds, so imagine there might be some movement, even if it's just from junglers to secure that area. Jaeger up towards the top side, gonna make his presence felt.
He will try to, yeah, again, just ensure that the joint doesn't get run down in the top side. Of course, when you're shoving in the lane like this against an Olaf, it's very easy to potentially get run down, but with no Ghost available, definitely the prospects of it a little bit less threatening, but Jaeger still doing a great job of covering his top laner.
Okay, talk to me about Karthus for a minute.
Sure.
What's the aim of the Karthus in the jungle? Because I know we talk about Cboi being very good at, well, Karthus being very good at clearing, obviously Cboi as well. Very, very adept at making sure that everything is being taken at a pretty good cooldown. The overstep on the top side was a small example of when that doesn't happen. Is Karthus looking to get onto the map now that he's level 7 towards 8 and 9, or is he still just going to be farming through, getting Requiem, trying to put some damage down, maybe sneak a kill or two?
Yeah, at least to me, Karthus is always about just, you know, CS per minute, right? Getting as much damage as possible into your inventory, right? They've got a lot of gold to work with right now. Cboi up 200, and you can see he's got a sizable CS lead, takes away the blue buff, doesn't look like that's going to be punished. But yeah, now that he's got that level 6, it's about assisting any skirmishes, right? It's more on Matchco as a whole, not just Cboi, to actually proactively look for a play to make, whether it's on a side lane, whether it's directly through the mid lane, it doesn't really matter, so that, you know, Cboi can effectively just press his Aki, get involved.
As the popular Ragnarok to lower his defenses might be a problem, ghosting away as he sees Jaeger running through. That's okay for the Viego. He's got Rift Herald, he stuck it away when we were discussing Cboi, his counterpart on the other team. Did he just look to drop Rift Herald here? Do you really want to give Sejuani that kind of gold?
I mean, sure, you might be giving Sejuani that kind of gold, but it's also a full tower to take for yourself. Jaeger on the Viego is still very much going to be a strong proponent to use that gold if they had dropped it, but they don't actually go towards that one. They just do get a lot of pressure up on the top side, deny a bit of a wave away from SD. So still really strong jungling from Jaeger. He's just individually falling behind 1-to-1 with Cboi on the CS department, but with all of those plays, he's actually caught back up in gold. It's just the XP where he suffered.
We've still got a few minutes, 4 more plates to be taken, so no pressure on Jaeger to drop it in the first lane that he finds. Just looking across the map to see where leads are gained. It is Schalke 04 with the 1,000 gold advantage at the moment. And I mean, it's mostly in support, but it's just that kill paying dividends, really.
Yep. For now, I'd like to see Schalke kind of keep the game at this pace, right? I think they're actually kind of okay with this right now with a Kog'Maw Lulu. And I think the fact, of course, that they've got such a strong team fighting composition post that sort of like 20-ish, 25-minute mark, I think means that they're all right with this. Like, I mean, they're up 1,000 gold. I think Matchco have actually sat on their hands a lot more than I feel like they were likely going to. It's more about what we actually get to see out of HawHaw on this pick. I think he's one of the few engage options, really, that Matchco have. And I want to see them actually get proactive relatively soon so they can start to leverage some of the strength of the early skirmishing power that these champions have.
And see how he builds as well, because when you're talking about one of the primary forms of engage on your team being paranoia, as Lilipp eats a culling, but Jaeger moving forward, flashing and forcing it out of Rharesh, needs to move back though, Cboi en route. But it looks like there's not much more to be discussed. Cboi hasn't been spotted, I don't believe, but he will be as he walks out of the bush and throws down the gate. So Matchco just defend themselves a little bit. But yeah, when you talk about paranoia as one of your primary engage tools, that to me seems bad.
Yeah, definitely does. But again, it's more about the skirmishing, right? If you can get in, it's good. Oh, Ragnarok pop. It's like SD wanted to try and make a turn there, but he didn't have an undertow. So, yeah, bit strange. But that's an ultimate down, and Matchco on the bottom side are on the dragon. Jaeger definitely saw that going down.
Oh, Paranoia has been used, but it's already a kill going over to Jaeger. He's going to get the reset, but he's only a Nami, so he'll be run down. Nocturne grabs the return kill. It has given Schalke a little bit of time to move in on to the dragon, though, but they're going to allow it to reset as it was just Decay, and he wasn't interested in trying to solo that one down.
Yeah, I think the threat of Decay moving down there off the back of that play as well just means that they have to disengage away from the dragon. Jaeger inadvertently actually stops that dragon takedown, which should potentially be a pretty big deal, right? If you were staring down 2 dragons 11 minutes into a game with, you know, a composition which is realistically going to be ready and okay to fight at 1 IM, right? Divine Sundra, really scary. Decay on this Akali with that Proto Belt, on the Rocket Belt rather, very strong. And also, Kog'Maw takes it going towards Blazer and King. Very strong 1 IM spikes across the board. As you can see here, Jaeger saw that dragon was going on almost certainly, and just decided to send it towards the bottom side, and HawHaw actually responds, and there you go, threat of Decay taking down Cboi means that flash has to come out. Dragon is stopped, honestly, will that a win, and now the Herald gets dropped here, but that should just about be taken down, as the aggro will be dropped, and there you go, no charge. Unfortunately, Jaeger wasn't able to get that down anywhere efficiently. Could have dropped it earlier on, don't forget, I think. So, kind of irritating for the Schalke side to not get that one in, but good denial there from Matchco. And now, flip response is actually going to be this dragon, because they saw Cboi respond to stop that charge.
And that's the question, isn't it? You don't get any gold. You could have used it on the very first play you made top side to charge through for the plates, but it does buy you some space and buy you some time to grab yourselves the first dragon of your team. Of course, if Earl already secured by Matchco, but Schalke will take the Hex Tech. Put your book away, Jamada, is Ocean.
But this is actually the worst soul in the game.
I don't know. I don't like Cloud. I don't think Cloud Soul's very good.
I'm tired of Clown Soul slander. All right, it's a good soul.
Do you know,
they're just not ready to hear it. You know?
Yeah, I'm not ready to hear it. We're not seeing it in the game, so it's irrelevant, Jamada.
It's like pineapple on pizza, except I actually don't. That's actually what it'd be fun to say. But
no, we're not just letting you breeze past that. That's like being in the middle of a team fight, being like, I like the color yellow.
Yeah.
Like, it's irrelevant. No one cares. What are you on about?
Thank you.
Shaking my head honestly. Oh, could be in a little bit of trouble. Decay's caught him out, but he will be able to fear the Akali away, caught in the smoke, and she turns around. Jaeger up on the red buff. But this game hasn't been, we talked about it a little bit earlier, Matchco haven't been as proactive as we maybe expected. And yeah, they've got Cboi on the Karthus, which wants to be a farming champ, but I don't know if I'm sitting there as a PG Nats fan looking at Olaf, Nocturne, Lucian going into later stages with huge amounts of confidence.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point, right? Of course, I think it's very important to note that Matchco have very strong one-item spike champions, right? Nocturne,
Yes.
Lucian, you know, Nami with the combination of the bottom lane in general. Very strong. Karthus obviously gives them a little bit more of a hyper-scaling aspect, I suppose. But realistically, I think they'd be outscaling Kog'Maw Lulu. Actually not. A lot of damage, but I think they were looking to reset anyway. Items look really, really close to completion there for Lilipp and TakeSet. So I think, you know, give Matchco the benefit of doubt. Once they do pick up these first core item completions across the board, they don't start to look to get aggressive immediately, then I'm going to start to have a couple of concerns if they don't start picking up some fights that go their way. Herald has left Jaeger in a very exposed position.
Yeah, he's going to Audacity though. Elite Joint comes over the wall to assist him. It will be a 2v2 as Cboi's here, but there's the Paranoid jumping immediately onto the jungler. He'll be able to scramble away as Elite Joint has the point blank HawHaw in the face to keep him alive. Takes in a Lilipp, have come through from the reset though. So everyone apart from Lucian is currently in the neighborhood. It looks like Schalke have the numbers advantage. They try and take this one up, sending forward, looking to keep members of Matchco at bay, and they will be able to secure themselves the Rift Herald. Don't lose any members either. Good steal there from the Prime League side.
Yeah, really nice. It looked pretty dicey at the very start. Jaeger in the back of the pit gets a little bit of assistance there from Elite Joint, and eventually they just end up winning out on the fight. Again, that's just kind of the power and tools that Schalke have available to them. Decay even could have taken down, let's say it was HawHaw on the backside, but I think that flash saved him from the shuriken flip. But the follow-up almost certainly would have been there. Really, really clean stuff from Schalke, despite how that one started out. Matchco, again, just not really able to find any key targets.
The Schalke game has been slow and controlled, and we spoke earlier about how they were pretty happy with the rate of the game because they've got Kog'Maw, they've got Akali, they've got champions that go very well late. The Viego as well, of course. Early skirmishing is fine, but late game resetting in teamfights is bellissimo, I believe is the technical term, if you'll pardon my dense academic jargon. But they've just kept this game very stable, very steady. They've gained themselves about a 1,000 gold lead coming up to the 18-minute mark. Evened out on dragons, so there's no threat of an early soul or elder for either side particularly. Picked up both of the Rift Heralds as well to deny any kind of opportunity. And while they haven't necessarily used it too effectively themselves, just neutralizing the objectives is almost good enough for them.
Definitely, I mean, I'd even say in the second Herald, they opened up the mid lane, so not even that bad for them, really. So, Schalke, again, happy with the pace of the game. They don't have to speed things up. Very happy to just sit here and wait. I think if they really wanted to get aggressive, sure, use Decay, use Elite Joints, Permafrost stacks with Jaeger as a trio. Just allow TakeSet to farm up some more resources. Again, I continue to ask the questions of Matchco we are coming into today. You know, they had some pretty peculiar drafts on day one. Day two, a little more standard. This time around, bit of a mixture of both. Some standard play from the Nami Lucian from the bottom side, but HawHaw hasn't really been able to get anything going with this Nocturne mid. Feels like Cboi hasn't really been able to flex his muscles with, you know, what feels like the individual XP lead he's had all game long. It's actually been closed out almost by Jaeger now. You can see the purple bars next to the champion icons, and now Matchco, they're in the river first for this Dragon Decay, looking to cause a little bit of issue, but he will always be alright. There's a flip. And imagine if this Dragon got taken early by Matchco, this could be a point. Spot Ragnarok. That's gonna time.
It's not going to matter. He's going to be taken out. Takes it with the damage. Elite Joint with the CC. Easy pickup for Schalke. Dragon wasn't even started on that play as well because Jaeger and Lilipp were doing an effective job at keeping members of Matchco at bay. Moving towards Cboi, a little bit of damage. He's got so much support. Click and Rharesh are both there. They're looking to get the kill onto Jaeger over the wall, but he will be able to dive away. Dragon is started up, perhaps accidentally by the Prime League side, as here comes the Requiem Wild Growth. Might not be enough.
Oh my
as
God.
Jaeger goes down. That's a lot of damage from Cboi as Schalke half health bars across the board. Need to be careful. Matchco with the health advantage could go back towards the Dragon, but that Requiem hit harder than I thought it would.
You know, we saw Karthus come out yesterday from Koro, and, you know, we never really saw a massive Karthus ultimate come down, so in my head I saw that that one dropping. I was like, yeah, Jaeger's probably alright. And then the entire team just gets half health. Absolutely absurd. But you can see he is very strong, right? Leandri's Sword Pen Boots. There's not really too much magic resist across the board, especially for the bottom half of the map. Hex Drinker hadn't been procced yet, or had been procced already, rather, by Jaeger, so not able to survive that one. So much damage, and off the back of it, they pick themselves up the dragon. Really massive pickup. They can get themselves towards that soul a little bit sooner. Get a replay as Jaeger, yeah, just a little bit too over-eager, right? No one on his team is there to kind of capitalize on that. Expecting more. Gets chased out, dragon, so slows him down a little bit. Yeah, Requiem just hits like a truck. Look at half health from TakeSet. My god. Yeah, when you get that much damage thrown at your face, you kind of just have to give it up as come out of the replay. There you go.
Onto the Rift. A bit confused for a second, but items have been picked up a little bit more. We talked about the one item spike, but how is the 2 item spike going to look from some of these members of Matchco?
Yeah, I mean, for Matchco, now, you know, a little more pick potential via that rapid fire cannon, right? Gives you the extra range to maybe get a couple of those autos in with the mandate, with the Nami for the slow. But it's not, you know, inherently going to change how crazy the champion is in terms of its damage spike. It's just going to give it a little more flexibility in how easy it can actually find access to the targets. Across the board, second item spikes. See what actually ends up being picked up, right? Because it looks like HawHaw, he's got a tier and he's also got a hex drink. So more of Malmortius here, a lot of magic damage, so it's going to make him a lot tankier and a lot more frustrating to deal with. It's mostly, to me, about, you know, third item for Rharesh, picking up that Infinity Edge, maybe a Lord Doms if he feels like the front line is that tanky, but I feel like it's really not. And then Cboi making his way towards what I could only suspect is the Shadow Flame, and then, of course...
Alright, let's see how much
this imagine.
Does.
Damage check. Half health on
Lilipp,
not bad.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
That's tough. I wonder how much gold First Strike actually farmed off that. I took my eyes off Karthus, because at that point it's basically just the it's just the First Strike proc. He's got 1.7k in his bank right now, so he's encroaching on having a Shadow Flame. I think
there it is.
200 more gold. Oh no, he just picked it up. There you go. I'm bad at that. He has a
he has
Futures Market.
Yeah, it was the Futures Market. You're like,
all right,
you
never
said
mind.
like
I'm not bad at gold.
He needs 200 gold as it went to minus 270, and I was like, nice. But
yeah.
For Cboi, he's got that 2 item spike now. He's already hitting like a truck, and Matchco seem to have the slight tempo advantage at the moment. For Schalke, is this a worry, or is this them saying, look, we know that they were going to be powerful at this stage of the game. We're just going to sit back, not give them any more opportunities to play out their win conditions, and just wait for Kog'Maw to hit 2-3 items, and then we go again.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record here, but
okay.
I think Schalke are just okay playing at this pace, right? They always, yes, have to be worried about the Karthus damage with the dive, you know, potential of both Asli and HawHaw being able to kind of avoid all of the frontliners, effectively just walk through them or dash through them. But I think as long as they can actually find, you know, the rest of the fight with Jaeger and Decay diving through onto Rharesh, onto Click, I think they can win the extended trades. I think that a champion like Viego are very happy to pick up any of these forms here. With the exception of maybe the Nami, and that's definitely a pretty big thing to be able to lean on. Again, yes, of course, the natural scaling and threat of a Kog'Maw Lulu is going to be very, very scary. But I think, honestly, for Schalke, the longer that this game goes on like this, it's going to be more about whether or not they get a Baron attempt, if anything, to use the champion to shred it more than a team fight, and then maybe look to use the buff after the fact. But I'm kind of scared if they go to start the Baron, you know, MR gets shredded by that buff, all of a sudden Cboi hits you for like more than double the damage he already was. Not sure how much of a valid answer it is to go to try and start up that Baron. The scoreboard's come down, so I got a little bit worried, you know, like...
Yeah, I was disturbed. I was like, what's about to happen? What do the observers know that we don't? Because I'm looking at this and, okay. Schalke have started up that Baron buff, but it's only 3 members, so they might not have any information about this. I don't know, because they haven't got any vision. It's been cleared out. Okay. And Schalke very quickly decide to move away from it. Very smart, but That was the right kind of idea, sending members to the side lanes. We've got teleport coming through. It is Elite Joint on the Sejuani who's going to be running on forward. Can they find a pick, though? The Arctic Assault into the ultimate onto Cboi's face. He's the one you want to take down, but he stays alive with a lot of health. There's actually going to be Elite Joint who has to get the one to stay alive. Double teleport coming on through. Here's the Paranoia. They managed to take down the Sejuani. Can they grab more? Requiem comes on through, but it doesn't take anyone down just yet. Members are burning. Jaeger is low. TakeSet needs to be careful. Flashed away from the bubble, but he's followed up by Rharesh.
Decay!
It's a double from Decay as he looks to take his team back into the fray. Grabs the Shogun. Will he follow? No, he won't. Lilipp low. Rharesh with one more. Cannot find the kill as the Kog'Maw goes fishing. He's spinning onto HawHaw. Can he get the damage? No, he can't. The ultimate goes wide as Nocturne escapes. Schalke, it looked worrying in the first half. Brought it back a little bit. Decay with the save.
Decay so powerful in this team fight. So many easy targets for him to assassinate. There's not really that much magic resist outside of HawHaw having that more of Malmortius right now. So really strong turnaround from the Schalke mid laners. We get a look at the initial engage. It definitely looks a little bit forced at first. They're not able to burst down Cboi. They don't get him in any kind of chain CC. And in fact, I actually thought there was going to be Elite Joint going down in the chain CC, but the Arctic Assault comes back around, manages to escape, and then when the Requiem comes down, I think, yeah, this fight has to be done. Jaeger's more shield saves him there on the retreat, but take a look at the cave, because that's where all the damage comes from. It's just an instant deletion of two members. The front line of Matchco and able to escape from the flash. The well-timed Shuriken. A really great fight from both sides. Cave almost goes down to the back end of that damage. Does bring the two very close to bringing him below.
Dragon was picked up by Schalke, as you've just seen, as we hop back to live. So it's two dragons apiece, meaning the soul is unlikely to be that much of an aspect. That being said, Schalke wouldn't be too upset if this game went another 15 minutes, so they'll be keeping their eyes peeled. For Matchco, a little bit less satisfied, but as we saw in that last engagement, can definitely still take fights and are definitely looking strong, especially Cboi on the Karthus. And the fact that that Nami tidal wave was all the disengage that they actually needed is promising for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to take into context how that fight was taken, though, right? It was right in a choke, right in the middle of basically no escape from that tidal wave. So that disengage kind of, it's just the strongest like use case for a tidal wave, realistically. So I think if we see fights taken in a slightly more open setting, then perhaps there's a little less value in it, but still Click doing a really good job of making sure that Schalke don't just, you know, by default get the best case scenario engages for themselves. Staves them off well enough, and now I think when you start to look towards some of the items that are coming in now, Void Staff pickup for the Kate. That is huge when you see the double more on the solo laners, no magic resist on the rest of the squishy members. He is going to instantly and surgically remove anybody he gets on top of from Matchco.
And it's what he did last fight, even though it wasn't going in his team's favor. And now that it's going to be able to burn through the squishies, especially, I'm looking at Nami, and I'm just seeing sushi at the moment, because Akali is going to make absolute fillets.
One of Akali's dances, she's eating rum.
It's
right?
it's her recall, I think.
Is it a recall? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's her recall with the base skin, is that she's eaten some ramen. Cboi might be caught out here by Jaeger, but there's the Paranoia, and he's pretty scared as he moves back. Keep an eye on those damage numbers as he rips through squishy members. The Kog'Maw so low, TakeSet goes down. Jaeger moving forward, looking towards HawHaw. He dies down though as Decay jumping through, looking for another. Finds Rharesh execution, but has no way out. Has to go golden. Is there going to be any kind of escape? No, there won't. It's a shutdown for Cboi as Matchco take 2.
Yeah, now what will Matchco actually get off the back of this team fight is the big deal. They're able to shut down Decay in this team fight. Are they going to look towards the Baron? The answer seems like yes. There's no smite on the side of Schalke, but there's also no smite for Cboi. I just feel like there's no real Baron steal threat here on the side of Schalke, so this should be going down to the Italian side. Really strong team fight coming up from them, and this is what we've been wanting to see for the last 10, almost 15 minutes really. You know, HawHaw diving forward, Requiem over the top. Let's see what we can actually get done. Looks like Schalke aren't going to let this one go over too easily.
It's only Elite Joint and Lilipp though. It's only Sejuani and Lulu, and they're trying to do their best to keep members low. Baron's still holding, but Elite Joint goes down. Cboi is low. Teleport coming through from Matchco though. They want support as Lilipp is doing his best to keep Azadi away. The Baron is secured. It's on to 4 members of the Matchco side. Might actually have been 5, but a teleport coming off through from Akali. What can Decay do? He's not caught out by the bubble. Click in trouble, gonna go low. Will be taken down as Decay dives forward. One more will be enough. Rharesh goes low. They finally catch Lulu, but Decay catches another. It's 2 for the Akali in the fight. A dirty double from Decay. So Schalke remove a couple
He is on a tear, man. He really is. He's trying so hard. Teleport comes in. He isn't quite able to assassinate Click from the get-go without using the R2. So unfortunately, he kind of has to expend it in a bit of an awkward manner. Still picks up that play double, like you say. Matchco, they're able to escape with Baron buff on multiple members, though. I think, you know, a bit of a heist there, given how that one played out. Elite joint and Lilipp some absolute heroics to try and stop that one from going down, but go down it does. We'll get a replay and look at how this all unfolds, because you can see the focus is on Cboi. If they can take him down, all of a sudden it becomes a flip. They don't actually know there's no smite. Bubble is good, locks him in place for those lay wastes. 2 lay wastes on the board. Actually goes for the chase down on Lilipp. Lilipp actually sells this really well, buys a lot of time, flashes over the wall, brings all of Matchco with him. That bubble just slightly mistimed from Click, and you can see how much damage he's able to do. If he's able to get the empowered ore attack off onto Click, maybe he can immediately focus Rharesh and then actually look to try and pick up multiple members away from just the bottom lane. But fortunately, the damage wasn't quite there to assassinate the fish, as that his spells used not as efficiently as he would have liked. Now let's see how efficiently Matchco can use this Baron.
Yeah, on 3 members, we saw in the picture-in-picture that some ultimates were blown in a little exchange as Rharesh and Tubble gets stunned up, taken out. Jaeger with the kill can now reset, becomes the Lucian, looking towards Cboi, who's caught up in the ultimate, shut down a second for the Viego, as now you can see on the side, it is Akali looking towards the Olaf, has to go golden. There are too many members of Matchco in support as Jaeger also goes low, but Decay not done yet, jumps into the shadows, but decides against the re-engage. But if Matchco walk through that choke, they could be in trouble. Dragon on the Rift could set up for soul point for either team. The Schalke firmly in control of this area. Acidy half health, but he's helping the members of Schalke right now. But it looks like it's the Prime League side that are going to start up the Dragon.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure what Rharesh was looking for there. It looked like he just kind of dashed forward, just tries to find some kind of burst damage with the culling, and unfortunately just gets locked down, not expecting Jaeger to come out, and now, well, this is happening, I guess.
Elite Joint is looking to escape, but HawHaw has quite a lot of damage. Sejuani, tricky customer to take down, especially on the tower, so HawHaw needs to be careful. It's the Arctic Assault away, and Sejuani survives.
Nice. Good job, Sejuani. Ocean Soul regen as well. She was quite low. Yeah, so let's get a look at this, because I think he's just not expecting Jaeger to come out with the Hallowed Mist like that and kind of just one-shot him. And then after that, Fire is kind of sure he's going to be dead. Permafrost comes down on Cboi, he's easy pickings. Decay comes down from the flank as well. He has to go golden to avoid that Requiem. Otherwise, he could have maybe used his R2 to look for an assassination attempt onto Ashley. Of course, remember, perfect execution is just that. It's an execute. There's more damage the lower you are. Wasn't able to quite find it there.
And this is where we're starting to see a couple of the deficiencies in the Matchco composition start to rear their ugly heads, as Acidy going to get spat on. Not a particularly pleasant experience as TakeSet puts some damage down. And for Schalke, it's dull. It's a bit boring to say because we say it all game, but they can just let the game continue on as it is and they'll be feeling pretty good. The gold lead is not huge. It's only about 400, but firmly in control, know that scaling is on their side, know that time is on their side. And for Matchco, yeah, they've got a scary Karthus, but we saw in that last fight, one stray Sejuani ult could be all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it really takes, right? I mean, they're only really scared of maybe some really strong Karthus damage, and Rharesh rather, hasn't really had the kind of access to the squishier targets that he would probably have wanted throughout a lot of the mid-game. So, like you say, Schalke are happy with how the play sequences are actually coming to a front. I mean, honestly, Decay, I think it could be said enough, to be honest with you, has been on such a mission in these team fights. And he is such a massive threat that Matchco don't really have many tools to shut down, I think, crucially, right? No point-and-click CCs. They have the tether, right, from Nocturne. Yes. That's pretty important, but if HawHaw's job is to dive onto TakeSet or Lilipp, he's not going to be around to stop Decay every single time. All of a sudden, his mission statement changes. He has to play more of a defensive role, which is not necessarily what you want to do as the Karthus. As Nocturne. There you go. Got there in the end. Long list of changes,
yeah.
guys.
I mean, you don't want to be playing particularly defensive on Kog'Maw or Karthus either, so you're not wrong. But it's just weird that you decided to bring it up, I guess, would be the point there. But yeah, as you mentioned, the Nocturne not feeling super happy to be diving forward, has gone for a slightly beefier build with the Strike Breaker, more Mortis, and Guardian Angel just to stay alive as he dives on forward, because he is a bit culpable to being mown down by Kog'Maw. if he engages a little bit too far. And TakeSet's got a lot of champions that do enjoy supporting him. Sejuani happy to sit back and peel away. Obviously, that's Lulu's whole thing. So it's a bit of a different conversation when you look at Schalke's composition. For Matchco, Cboi picking up that Rabadon's death cap. That could be important.
It could be, to say the least.
Oh, Paradox coming through. Look at the Requiem. There's going to be a decent amount of damage going through. Lilipp blows up. The Lulu from half health. Elite Joint misses the ultimate and will go down as well. You've got to imagine cut down in his prime. But Jaeger's on the backside looking for Cboi. Has to dive away. Decay is here. What can he get done? A damage coming through. Looking for Click. Will find him. That's one. Is there a second? HawHaw's the focus as he dives in and out. It's the double actually. Picking up onto Cboi as Nocturne floats back. But it is a positive fight for Matchco. They lose 2, but they pick up 3.
Yeah, I mean, they do pick up 3. They up trading kills, but take a look at the top of the screen, top left. Dragon spawns in 60 seconds time. I think Schalke is still going to be okay getting back out onto the map there. And Decay yet again comes in to rescue Schalke from a potential disaster. Lilipp gets one shot. There is not really too much he can do. He's getting blown up by the culling. I think he died to at 1k HP. I'm not sure if we'll have time for a replay or not, to be honest with you, with the Dragon spawning up and the Baron being available. But man, that was a meaty engage from Matchco. And again, you know, this is what we wanted to be seeing for a majority of this game. It's just taken a little while to get to this point. And you can kind of briefly see it. Replay comes in a little bit quickly. Yeah, Lilipp just died at 1k. The Guardian Angel gets procced by Jaeger, and Decay comes in to try and clean up the fight. Remembers that tidal wave delays the inevitable. Pick goes down. As speaking of Decay,
maybe in trouble. Damage coming through and TakeSet. Teleport there as well, even through the Ragnarok. It's the shutdown for Decay. Baron going to be started up, you've got to imagine, by Schalke, but actually they're going to move towards Dragon. They want to pick up the Soul.
Soul, I mean, I kind of understand it, right? Starting up the Baron again. Oh my goodness me.
Decay dodging away. Rharesh doesn't get hit by the ultimate from Sejuani, and that's a big tool for Elite Joint to have burned. Requiem comes on through. That shield does nothing, Lulu, as everyone taken pretty much near to half health or below. Dragon will be started up though. TakeSet is going to melt through it, and this one should be a pretty easy secure. It will be taken by Jaeger and Schalke. That is Ocean Soul, and that regen is going to be very, very useful.
Yes, I was about to say the exact same thing. You took the words from my mouth. I don't think I'll ever see a higher value Ocean Soul, depending on whether or not Cboi wants to cast his aura of cooldown or not. My goodness me, so much damage now. Oh my god.
Jaeger.
I'm gonna get caught by this. It's as though
Matchco a little bit quick to pull the trigger on that one, but Jaeger's still teasing them, messing with them for a moment, as the rest of his team needs to be careful. Decay's not here, so if a fight kicks off now, Schalke will be fighting with one arm timed behind their back, but it looks like Kog'Maw, he's going to use his mouth rather than his hands. He's trying to get the damage down, takes down HawHaw with Elite Joint's assistance. Schalke make the pick. It's a big one onto the mid laner. Baron on the menu.
yeah, and he's down for almost a minute as well. I think Baron, definitely a very worthy start. There's no Requiem available for another maybe 20-25 seconds or so from Cboi. Let's see how Matchco want to approach this. Decay is the one that they really have to be careful of, but I mean, you can just tell posturing says they don't want anything to do with this Baron. That's going to be Schalke. No fear taking this one up. Let's see what they can get done with it now. Baron buff. First one was eaten away by Matchco. Really valiant attempt to stop Schalke, or stop Matchco rather, by Schalke. Now is their buff to use. Items are ready. TakeSet, Decay, they're not going to get much stronger. Again, Matchco really have to do something about this Akali diving in. To be a little more in unison. It feels like we've never really seen Ashley and HawHaw diving in on the same target at the same time whilst that Requiem's been coming down. That little bit of difference in team cohesion has really meant. Now, Schalke, they're the ones with the Soul, they're the ones with the Baron. They can look to really start to crack open the base here.
TakeSet just going to be mowing through these minion waves. Decay on the side. 9-1-1 on the Akali. The emergency is there's a woman stabbing me repeatedly, and it's very unpleasant. As Decay sticking around on the side, looking towards Ashley maybe, but HawHaw's in his sight, but will go near-sighted with the Paranoia. Utility used, but the Nocturne is the first victim. Decay dancing forward once again. Jaeger trying to get in the mixer. So much damage comes on through. Clickers to go golden. Rharesh the same, but takes this on the side. Sets up the ultimate. Won't be able to find it though as turns it back towards Ashley as the damage will fly through. But Matchco holding firm. They took down Akali. Requiem, what can it do? It can take down No one, actually, as two members go golden absolutely immediately. Cboi, mown through, has to go into stasis himself as Elite joint with the charge. Perfectly timed, perfectly executed. Rharesh shooting forward, though. Takes down Sejuani. Can they do a little bit more? The minions will be cleared away. Schalke, null fear with 3 members. Still trying to keep the pressure up. But Matchco, staunch defense.
Yeah, they're regenerating a lot as well from this ocean. So takes us back to full HP. They have a wave in the mid lane, but they don't look like they want to go towards it. They're trying to end this game. HawHaw's up in 10 seconds. It's a bold call, but I like it.
They look for Rharesh. Jaeger goes below half health. The damage comes through for him. He gets shielded up, but he's going to be so solo. Ashley moving forward. Rharesh might look for an execution with the rapid fire cannon, but can't find it this time around. Paranoia, baby, as he dives into the back line. HawHaw trying to take down a member, but he just can't do it. Resurrects, though, as the rest of Matchco. They dive on forward. They take down one. They take down a second, but he's going to get right back up. Will he be able to escape? Jaeger cut down double for Olaf.
Yeah, the decisions were there for Schalke. They either go towards the mid lane, pick up the second inhibitor, or they look for the end. It's the more volatile of the two choices, but they look for it and they get punished. Matchco make the staunch defense, and now Decay, he's looking for another pick as we go into a replay. I'm sure he's fine, guys. Don't worry. As that paranoia comes down and the fear connects onto the Kog'Maw, and as soon as he's dead, there's no more damage threat return. It looks like in the picture-in-picture. By the way, don't worry, Decay did not murder Rharesh.
This time.
Be okay there. This time.
We'll see. Going forward as Decay has been enjoying some assassinations in this game, 10 to be precise. And one that he really didn't enjoy because he got an assist, and that doesn't seem reasonable to an Akali player. But 40 minutes on the clock.
Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off.
You go ahead, mate.
TakeSet has an anatomist. Can we get a check-in on who that's on? My only assumption is it's on Cboi, right? Like it's gotta be on Karthus. Oh no, that's is that Acid actually?
Yeah, that is Acid.
Oh,
and there's no other anathemas. Oh no, because he's got anathemas. But does it show?
Well, he just purchased it, right? So I guess maybe he's not actually bound it to anyone yet.
Yeah, because you have to see them on the map in order to actually bind someone, but it is pretty much global. Just checking in all the champions, seeing who's bound. We'll find. I'm sure we'll see in the next team fight, but that is really a sigh moment from a marksman player when you have to pick up the anathema's chains to prevent yourself getting one shot by Karthus, which is, you know,
I mean,
something that is
smart,
to be concerned about. Absolutely.
It's 30% damage reduction. Now Acidy's going to face check.
Takes a lot of damage. The Ragnarok will be blown. Here comes the Requiem. How's it going to look? A decent amount of damage, but it's not doing nearly as much as it used to when compared to the health bars and defenses that have been built on the likes of Elite, Joint, and Jaeger. They need to be a little bit careful going through that choke as members of Matchco hanging around in the mid lane. All 5 are here, but Acidy did go back in order to defend against Decay on the bot side, who's looking towards that inhibitor tower. Both teams now potentially looking for a collapse. Jaeger's only half health, so needs to be a little bit wary, regenning from the Ocean Soul. Cboi's being caught out, though. No ultimates, no stuns land on him this time, as Jaeger chases forward, will be able to secure the kill onto the Karthus and grabs up his soul for himself. Unfortunately, no Requiem can be used, though.
That's huge. That's jungle pickup right at Elder. Now, Schalke, they can approach this as 5. What will Matchco try to do? Because they are at a number disadvantage. They were being out-teamed for already. Posturing just says, I'm gonna give this one up. Give up the Elder. They almost certainly give up the Baron. With both the Uber buffs available to the Schalke Warfare side, you have to expect they will just close out off the back of having these 2 buffs.
That is the dream for Prime League fans. 43 minutes into game when you've got a Kog'Maw and an Akali. Feels pretty good, but for Matchco, hey, I'm hold my hands up here. We were talking about this team maybe not having the champions, especially I was saying, look, some of these champions don't scale particularly well. Karthus, yes. Nocturne, less so. But they're still fighting. They're still taking fights reasonably even at times. But with the Elder Dragon picked up with the Baron in 10 seconds potentially being secured, I feel like their chances are slipping away.
Definitely. And again, Elder, Baron, base already open on the top side. The inhibitor's respawning now, but it's open is enough. Just let the siege dive. They're the ones with that Sejuani ultimate. They've been happy to dive forward with Jaeger, with Decay. As long as TakeSet and Lilipp keep themselves safe, it's not really too big damage threat, to be honest with you. As now, with these 2 Uber buffs, they will move towards the mid lane. they'll look to try and close out this game. Matchco, what do you have left in the tank?
Well, they're going to have another strong defense in the tank, otherwise this could well be it. Schalke moving forward, taking down that mid lane inhibitor tower, and the inhibitor likely to follow them. We'll just head up to the top side to do the exact same thing to that inhibitor. Requiem's going to be blown, and there's the Paranoia as well. It looks like they want to pull the trigger and go. But they're fighting into Baron, they're fighting into Elder. HawHaw actually picks up the kill on TakeSet. Lilipp forced to back away. Schalke though, they've got Jaeger and Decay on the back. They've got assassins galore as Asadi survives, blown up by the Sejuani. Jaeger now looking to take down the Nocturne. Will be able to get one more Q. No, he won't, as Rharesh drops him into Resurrection, but I don't think it matters particularly much as the Nexus lane bearer Elite Joint isn't interested in playing with his food. He's going to take them down. 45 minutes on the clock is what it took, but Schalke, no fear, grab their first win.
They do pick up their first win, and such an important win, right? Given the context of what's happening inside of the team, they needed this win to ensure that they at least have some kind of semblance of hope moving into next week. And honestly, huge step up from Decay as well on this Akali. We've had a lot of talk about how we do, rate him quite highly as well domestically. Had a pretty solid split. Being able to show up here in this game, pretty much, get his team across the finish line on multiple team fights. Huge stuff from Decay here in this game.
And we were talking about how we were happy that the game was going long from Schalke 04's perspective because they were the ones who had the late game scaling options. But are you surprised at how well the Matchco composition actually managed to get over the finish line? Yes, obviously they lost and now they're 0-3, which is a problematic time for the team. But I was expecting that one to be, especially looking at the compositions, looking at the draft, looking at how the game was going, much easier for the Prime League side than it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting a little more chaos out of Matchco in this game, right? You've got the Paranoia, you have the Requiem, expecting side lane plays to kind of just be happening pretty consistently. Never really came to fruition. It felt like they were relatively happy with the lead that Cboi had built out for himself, but beyond that, nothing else really happened. The Nami Lucian didn't really get far ahead. They weren't able to find any early game invades of the priority that in theory they should have had from all three lanes. So yeah, a bit of a strange run from Matchco. The game definitely a lot easier for Schalke to play out in the early game than it probably should have been.
Well, we're going to be speaking to Lion now off the back of that massive win for Schalke 04, keeping themselves in the running for a place in the quarterfinals. As we bring him up on the screen below, Lion, massive congratulations on the result. Always nice to see your face. How would you feel about that performance from your team today?
I mean, what can I say? With the current situation we're in, I just want to say a huge props to Elite Joint. This guy, he's a D1 support right now, currently. We put him on top lane because obviously I can't put him in the burden to fill the jungle role. So I have Jaeger subbing in for jungle, which also off-role for him. So respect on both people. They just have to kind of tank the situation right now in the games. And obviously, if you look at mid and bottom, these players are just, we are just good. My players are good and the situation is just not good right now for us. So we can't really show off. But I think my players do show off as much as they can.
Yeah, obviously, we won't get too much into details about the situation. We know it's a very frustrating one, surely to have to be going through right now. But I do want to ask you about, the group as a whole, right? You pick up your first win here today. Game Ward and Dusty still have to play out their head-to-head. How are you feeling in general? I know, again, the situation is still very frustrating about your chances at maybe sneaking away a top 2 finish, because I feel like definitely you guys have it in you to probably take down Dusty and Game Ward. It's just about how you approach those two opponents. How do you feel your chances are moving into the round robin as well, especially if you come in maybe on a hot day? Of course, you play all of the games on one day. How do you fancy your chances getting out of the group?
I mean, if I have to be realistic, it's really hard to get out of the group in this situation. As we can see in all our games so far, even on this third game, there's a lot of lack of coordination coming into mid game and coming into objective control and vision and everything, which is completely normal. We're playing with a different jungler, which is not even a jungler, and we're playing with a guy who hasn't really had any experience playing in a team environment and playing off role as well, and he's not even on the level of the competition. So we're having a lot of issues there, but we will be looking to do as much as we can coming from laning phases to bring the people ahead and just look to end through that. This is the only thing I can do right now, give my players the individual light they can get in the games and to show off. And yeah, we will try our best to win more games.
I mean, grabbing that first win on the board, so crucial. Hopefully that'll be a big boost to yourself and the entire team. Also like the duck in the background there, waving the flag, supporting the team. But Lion, congratulations on the win. Obviously not the first week that you will have wanted, but hopefully you'll have some time to go away, work with the players and get some improvements going before week 2. Congratulations on the result and good luck in the rest of your matches.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
No worries. I always love those little like ducks and the cats with their little flags. Grab one from HawHaw at HawHaw on Twitter. I think was the person who was making them this time around.
Yes.
I've got a nice little one with my. I'm not actually no. I won't spoil which team I've got it for. You'll have to go look at that one for yourself. But Jamada, let's have a look back at this game before we go any further. And I mean, this was a wild game to start us off today.
Yes, it was indeed. It definitely started off a little bit slow, but once we got into the thick of things, it was team fight after team fight, really, wasn't it? When you look back on it, and this was one of the fights where maybe you thought Matchco could really kind of start to make grounds into this, but look at Decay, man, just immediately eviscerates 2. Could have maybe found the 3rd as well with the damage that he had. Didn't risk sending himself to the grey screen. Of course, once Matchco even went as far as picking up this Baron, maybe you started to think that perhaps, again, you know, with this very wacky composition, they could start to make amends to, you know, the relatively inactive early game they had. But again, who is it? It's Decay that shows up on the scene to clean up this fight and ensure that, you know, Matchco don't really have as easy a time pushing their advantage forward.
And Decay was the one grabbing the headlines. We didn't talk too much about TakeSet, who was kind of just doing Kog'Maw stuff. And you can see the damage that he's putting out in clips like this. But once again, it was all about grabbing the assassinations. Huge ultimate from Elite Joint as well. Of course, a player who's off-roll. And as we heard, he's D1 at the moment. Not necessarily at the level of this top Prime League team. But in this game, you couldn't really tell.
No, you really couldn't. I mean, honestly, really strong performance. And I really do want to give a lot of credit to the Schalke side, right?
Yeah.
Heard from Lion there. The situation, it's not fun. It's not one that is, you know, particularly well timed for them. But given the struggles, given the situation, coming out here today, playing a game out and actually picking up the victory, whether it's in the fashion or not that they wanted, still is so important for team morale, I have to say.
Karthus damage.
Yeah, Karthus, man, smile. Not much to say about that one. I think definitely you expected Decay to probably be topping the damage charts on the opposite side. Maybe Kog'Maw, of course, but I feel like Decay had so many pop-off team fights that it makes sense that he managed to edge out TakeSet in this regard. Of course, Ocean Soul as well started to help out in those later game team fights, the regen, the longer extended periods of play, when the Schalke were able to have enough of an advantage to close out here against Matchco.
And grabbing that first one will be massive for them as they look to hunt towards those knockout stages. We're about to go to a quick break. When we come back, 2 more teams that are looking to put their first win on the board. Zero Tenacity, Vitality B. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.